Hi, I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Michael.
We'll begin with a few words before sharing a recording of the performance art piece we did for ACSF 12 at Fallingwater. And we'll then close with some context about what this work means for us and what symposium attendees shared it means for them.
Our proposal for ACS 12 was a speculative public performance titled The Gift, emerging from a collaborative art and architecture practice. It combines elements of several performances I wrote beginning in 2014 and adapts them to a new architectural context. Our intention for the work is twofold: to insert public art as a means of reterritorializing a privately owned public space, and to connect viewers to one another physically and spiritually through shared participation in the work. The medium of performance achieves these intentions by using human interaction to create a new space within an existing architectural framework.
The performance you're about to see lasts about 15 minutes and pulls together many of the gestures from the gift while adapting them to the context of the symposium. We ask that you would allow yourself a moment to slow down and be still as you watch it. I recently came across the following guidance on reading poetry in Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking, and I think that it provides a useful framework for watching performance as well. So, first, what is the meaning of the work and what is the experience? Second, what thought or reflection does the experience lead us to? And third, what mood, feeling, or emotion is stirred or created by the performance as a whole? So, with that, we hope that you will enjoy our performance. loss, love, sacrifice, and rebirth. These are a few of the core themes embedded in this performance. The suit Michael wears is made of over 50 black fabric sacks filled with raw white rice and sealed closed with a golden thread. The gold is inspired by the Japanese process of kintsugi, which makes an object's brokenness visible. When I pull a thread, rice pours out. I collect it in my hand and delicately give it to a member of the audience, asking them to please pass this on.
Rice has been a really important part of my art practice for a long time. I wanted a non-figurative way to represent an infinitely expansive body that can break down and be dispersed to nourish the living. My mother is from the Philippines, and I remember a photograph of her sister's funeral. Everyone had gathered to share a meal after the burial, and there was a table with mounds of steamed rice on it for everyone to fill their bowls from. That mound of rice reminded me of my aunt's body, being shared to nourish everyone she left behind, and it became a way for me to abstract the body in my work. It bears many meanings related to life and death across different cultures. For example, in the West, rice is thrown at newly married couples as a symbol of prosperity. And in Japan, a bowl of rice is presented to the deceased after their burial. Beyond its ritual significance, rice is also a daily source of sustenance. Growing up, my family ate rice at every meal. Our bodies became rice.
The act of passing rice from hand to hand was inspired in part by the Eucharist, a ritual that signifies collective loss and reconciliation. The sacrificial body and blood of Christ, present in the bread and wine, is redistributed among the congregation of mourners gathered in worship as a source of new life. Rather than mourning the death of a single person, our performance engages participants in restoring their lost connection with each other. When I give a handful of rice to a participant, I ask them to pass it on. And over the course of the performance, participants repeat this simple gesture, gently whispering to one another, touching hands, and actively constructing a shared memory together. This act of sharing is always an interesting moment in the performance because we can't fully predict how an audience will engage with the work. In a previous version of this performance, where the audience was seated, they remained seated as they passed the rice. And we actually saw that as one of the main challenges in adapting to the symposium format because the seating arrangement is so rigid. So it was really beautiful to see how many people stood up, joining me and walking across the room to share the rice with one another. And that movement became an important part of the choreography.
It's very important to us as we write a performance that the choreography remains abstract enough to open to many possible interpretations and different frameworks. Following our performance at ACSF, many participants shared what they experienced through the work. One participant was reminded of the Buddhist belief in reincarnation as the rice takes on new life, moving from hand to hand. We were happy to hear this reading because it relates directly to my interest in Tibetan sky burials, which were an early influence on my work with rice. In a sky burial, the body is broken and placed on a sacred site to be consumed by birds of prey. This beautiful, powerful funerary practice represents a belief that once the soul leaves the body, it is an empty vessel and becomes a source of food in the circle of life.
Another had a cosmological reading, with Michael as the ontological axis and me circling him, representing the order of the universe. This reminded them of a Sufi dance, which begins with a group of followers, like a group of closed flowers, deep in mystical meditation. As they open up, they first pay homage to the ontological axis at the center, and then they bring grace to the audience through their dance. I shared the grace of the rice grains, and then the dance was that the participants receive that grace and pass it on.
One friend was reminded of the way rice is used in Indian wedding ceremonies. Rice is a symbol of prosperity, and the couples pour a handful of rice into a sacred fire pit together, allowing it to touch both of their hands. They then circle the fire pit 3 times, feeding rice into the fire each time.
Another friend shared that they were reminded of ongoing threats to bodily autonomy in the United States today, as we repetitively took rice from Michael's body and spread it around the room. In this case, the small obsidian orb that we incorporated as a grounding element in the performance took on the form of an unborn child, and the reversal of our gender roles, with Michael forced to be still and me taking rice from him, became critical to the reading.
Someone also brought up the loss and isolation we have endured over the past several years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We proposed this performance for ACSF 12 in 2019 before the pandemic. The loss of connection to one another has always been a concern in our work, but the intimacy of approaching someone and touching their hands has taken on new meaning through global lockdowns and long periods of quarantine. We appreciate that the gestures we've choreographed resonate across each of these interpretations, creating links across many rituals and cultures.
We'll end by briefly touching on the link we see between architecture and performance, which are both methods of creating space. As we understand it, architecture is a ground designed to frame particular forms of movement through space. Conversely, in choreographing a performance, we are designing a specific set of actions, and a space is created intrinsically through their movement and the movement of other participants. Thus, by inserting a performance into an existing space, we are able to create a new space within it without any change to the architectural frame. This opens up many possibilities for performance as a form of public art that can subvert the prevailing use of an existing architecture. Leveraging performance as a commoning practice allows us to temporarily reclaim spaces through ritual action.
Performance allows opportunities for interaction with another that would not otherwise be possible. The performance is an invitation not only to open oneself to an experience, but also to allow oneself to be vulnerable to being part of something that is created in the moment. Meaning is fluid, and your experience is contingent upon the performer, the space, and other audience members. Used in this way, performance can break down barriers and connect the audience and the performer in a single shared communal moment, forever changing the way we view each other and the space. Thank you for allowing us to share our work with you.